Welcome back to Prime. I'm Ashley Wessel. Our next guest has a true passion for helping others, and each day in his classroom, Bob Hopkins is helping his students understand their passion. Bob is a professor of business communications with an emphasis in social responsibility and philanthropy. He is the founder of Philanthropy magazine, as well as Philanthropy and Volunteerism in Education. He joins us today to talk about his work around the world. Hi, Bob. How are you?
Doing great, thank you.
Thank you for being here today. Now tell us about your background in volunteerism and how it came about.
Well, Ashley, I think everything starts at home. You know, I think that people learn a lot of things from their parents, and I learned from my parents about social involvement, community service kinds of things. My dad was involved in Lions Club, my mother was involved in the church, and I can remember as a child, you know, going with my mother on all kinds of little calls to help people in trailer parks with Thanksgiving goodies and things like that. So it's always been with me, truly.
Okay, so it involved, now how long have you been in Dallas, and how did your involvement within the community here come about?
Okay, well, I came here in 1984, and I came here for a job, actually, that didn't actually materialize when I got here, but I was destined to be in Dallas. You know, the streets were laden with gold in 1984, and people had so much money, and a limousine on every corner kind of a thing.
Yes.
And so I was in fundraising, and so I went to work for the Shelton School, learned all about philanthropy and Dallasites in the fact that they like to be givers. And Dallas is one of those cities that is real important as far as giving is concerned.
Well, that sounds great. So philanthropy, a lot of people don't know about that, or when they hear it, at least I know, before I became to know you as well as I do, people think of, oh, just giving money.
Right.
So tell us how you're going about and changing the understanding of what philanthropy is.
Well, I founded Philanthropy World magazine, Ashley, and from that I learned an awful lot about people and their desire to be givers. And I think there's two kinds of people. There's people who will give when they're asked, and they'll write a check, and they do it because the right person asks. And then there's other people who wake up every morning wanting to know how they can help somebody. And they don't have to be asks. They just go ask. They just go out and find things that they become passionate about, and then they just become givers. And I think those are what I call philanthropists. And philanthropy means love of mankind. It doesn't mean that you give money. It means that you get involved in giving of yourself, your mentorship, your clothes, your food, whatever it may be, you know. So I like the word philanthropy because I try to have my students, where I teach, become philanthropists. I want them to get a passion for something. That's
right. I think it's important to understand that to be a philanthropist, you don't have to be a millionaire. You know, you can just be a volunteer at a soup kitchen, or you know, be a mentor, and you're already a philanthropist. So I think that's a great point to make.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So I want your listeners to pat themselves on the back when they do something special for somebody. And
absolutely.
Especially when it's not about money, because that's real philanthropy.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's get into your program that you founded and started, PAVE. So tell us more about that.
Okay, Ashley, I've been on boards of directors, and I've headed up nonprofit organizations the last 25 years. And the hardest thing to do is to get people to understand about the giving process. And a lot of people don't know how to give, and they don't give unless they're asked, of course. And people don't like to ask people for money. So I decided to start teaching children about this whole process by creating a nonprofit organization with a friend of mine named Lynn Vogt in Dallas. Great. And it's called Philanthropy and Volunteerism in Education.
And I see you brought a video as well that's playing now. So tell us more about that. And are those some of your students that run your program?
These are students from McCoy Elementary School in Carrollton. And these students are in 4th and 5th grade, and of course this is several years ago, so they're now in high school, I think, probably, or junior high. But it's an 8-week course, and we teach them about giving, and then they adopt a project, and they actually go out and raise money. But they also give time and effort. And how can children who don't have any money be givers? Well, that's what the whole process is all about, is how can children be givers? And it's amazing. Once they get the bug, then they want to go do this, and they want to go do that, and then they want to get their family involved. So it's amazing what these kids will do. And of course, self-esteem, you know, when somebody gives, you pat yourself on the back, maybe quietly or just by yourself.
Or mentally, absolutely.
Mentally, and you know you've done good, you know, and so it's a kind of it's a neat thing.
Yes. So this PAVE program, how old are they when they start, and do they continue it throughout their school years?
Well, not necessarily so. We started it out at high schools, and then we realized over a period of time that if the younger you start children about the idea of giving, that they'll be givers forever if they learn it as a child. You know, it's just like teaching a foreign language. Children learn it so much faster.
Yeah.
You know, and the younger you are, and the same thing with giving, and it's amazing. And you know, high schools have caught on, and they realize that teaching children and getting children involved in community service is really a neat thing now.
So what are some of the things you teach in PAVE? Like, you know, what are I heard you say that they adopt a program or a project.
Right.
So tell us a little bit more about that. Give us an idea of what they
we
do.
divide them into groups, and then each of the groups decides on a community project. And of course, dogs and cats, everybody loves that, so they go to the SPCA. And they may adopt the SPCA. Or several children have been before to Scottish Rite Hospital, and so they will adopt Scottish Rite Hospital, and they'll, you know, find toys, and they'll have everybody bring an unwrapped toy and a book or whatever, and many of them will then learn how to ask for money, and they learn how to write grants just like you would to a foundation or to a corporation. And they call their parents' friends and ask them if they wouldn't come to a reception or come to a dinner where they could have the opportunity to see what these kids are doing. And these kids raise thousands of dollars.
Well, that is amazing. And who could say no to an 8 or 9-year-old?
Well, that's what we say.
Yes.
You know, and it's true.
Absolutely. Well, that sounds like a great program. So where do you see the future of PAVE going?
Well, you know, I teach college now, and I get so many college students who don't know about giving either. You know, they've never been taught to give. It depends on what their culture background is, and we have many diverse students in our classrooms today who come from different kinds of cultures, and this whole deal about helping somebody else is kind of similar through each culture, because whether you're Jewish or whether you're Christian or whether you're Muslim, all of those religions say it's best to give back.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we just follow through with that idea, and we start them as soon as we can, and that will take them through the rest of their life, actually. But the more parents talk about it, the more teachers talk about it, about how important it is to find a passion.
Absolutely. All right, well, speaking of passion, let's go outside of Dallas, and let's talk about all the trips that you've been on. In China and Nepal, correct?
Right. I just got back from China and
Nepal. Your jacket.
And I have a jacket.
Your gorgeous jacket.
From Nepal. I mean, from China, actually.
Okay, so how did you come into this?
Well, I bought it.
You bought it. Well, besides that, first you had to get to China. So how did you get to China?
Right. I got to China because I decided I wanted to go to China. I decided that I need to see the world. I was told many times by people, you know, you're on the downside of your life, Bob. You need to go see the world. And I'm following their direction. And China is a big, looming organization, society that we read about every day in the newspapers, right? And the United States is really connected with China right now. I understand we have a couple 100,000 students from China studying in our schools over here, taking the Western culture back to China. And so I thought, you know, I have been brainwashed about China all my life. I need to go really see what it's all about. And so I started networking. And anybody,
which you're great at.
At which I'm great at.
You are.
And I teach with a couple of professors from China, and so they have connected me over there in China. And then I got to I got to actually teach a class at one of the major universities in Hangzhou, China, which is not too far from Shanghai.
Yeah.
And so I just took 6 months to plan a wonderful 2 weeks in China. And so. Great experience, but I really want to talk today, since this is kind of a short segment, about the next part of my trip. I thought, well, since China's really close to Nepal, and I have some involvement with Nepal, that I would just try to connect the two ideas and go to Nepal for a week. Well, here's the deal. I have a lot of students in my colleges from Nepal, of all things.
Really?
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that.
And you wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
And so I really didn't know where Nepal was until about 4 years ago, when I got a student from Nepal. And then I've had many students from Nepal. And they're beautiful people. I love their culture. And I learned about the Himalayas, and I learned about Mount Everest, even though I knew about Mount Everest and the Himalayas, but I really didn't know where they were.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had to go to Nepal. Then I met a man by the name of Don Wilkes with Global Community of Education, which is a nonprofit organization which builds schools in Nepal. And because of our association, because I'm a philanthropist, he asked me.
Yeah, and we've got some pictures
Okay, he
going
asked
on
me
now.
if I would go to Nepal and to see the schools that they built and consider being on their board of directors. And so I said, sure, good thing. So I did that. Anyway, I went to Nepal, and you can see there's a man there with a hat, and he's a priest.
Yeah.
And so I want to wear my hat because I got several of these because I was honored there because I'm a person who's a philanthropist, and I gave money in honor of my mother.
Yes.
And put it on the school.
So your mom's has a room dedicated to her?
Well, she does.
Or?
She has a classroom dedicated to her, and it says the Patricia Murray Hopkins family.
Wow.
And it's the family because it's my brother, my sister, and myself. Went together and gave money, and her plaque is there, and so we got to go over there and see the plaque, and I got to be adorned and honored. I felt like Bon Jovi by the time it was all finished, and see me right there,
you
in
are.
the bottom of the plaque at the school.
And that's your mom's
And that's
classroom.
my mom's plaque. And so anyway, I went to Nepal and probably had the experience of my life just because I slept on dirt floors in the mountains with no electricity, no water, but with very, very happy people. And then I would walk to schools with the children who ordinarily would not get to go to school. But because of Don Wilkes and this foundation, we now are able to get 1,000 students going to school every single day, and they absolutely love it. And they actually came out when I was there, all of them on a Sunday, all dressed up in their blue uniforms, and all the teachers, and and they do this thank you business in such a way that it makes you want to give more money, right?
Right.
They don't know that that's the reason they're doing it, but they are just a very beautiful, wonderful people.
Wonderful. So how many students did you say that you were able to?
Well, there's about 700 actually in 3 different schools that are there, and with many plans to build more schools in Nepal. And I'm in contact with Don Wilkes, who is the founder, and he's actually in Thailand now, going to Nepal, and we'll be in Dallas in a couple of weeks actually, because this is where his home is. But he and his wife decided, they wanted to do something with their lives that was special, and so they took a year's leave of absence from their jobs and went around the world to find something. And I'm that kind of same idea of a person. I want to now go see the world, and
well, absolutely, now's the time.
Nepal is the places that I have been.
Well, that's where your passion is.
That's my passion is right now. And I've always had passions about doing different things, but I'm happiest when I'm involved in something outside of my own life.
Well, and you always are involved in something, and I think that that's wonderful and great, and you're an inspiration to a lot of people. So thank you for coming on today and sharing all of your experiences and what you learned. And if you want to learn more about what Bob is doing and how you can get involved, send him an email at bhopkins@uta.edu. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. All right, and keep up with Prime online at onprimetv.com, or you can follow us on Facebook and YouTube. So thank you for joining us today. I'm Ashley Wessel, and we'll see you next time.